My whole family cheered when my father remarried at 60 to a woman half his age, but on their wedding night, a scream tore through the hallway, and what I saw when I opened the door left me frozen. The scream came at 2:47 a.m. I shot up in bed, heart slamming against my ribs, brain scrambling to make sense of the sound. It wasn't fear, it was rage, pure, undiluted fury, tearing through the walls of my father's house like a knife through silk. My feet hit the cold hardwood before I was fully awake. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand, old habit, document everything, and moved toward the door. The hallway was dark except for a sliver of light coming from the master bedroom, my father's bedroom, where he was supposed to be spending his wedding night with his new bride. I heard voices, hushed, urgent, then Larissa's voice, loud and venomous, nothing like the honey-sweet tone she'd used for the past 8 months. "You told me he was senile. You said this would be easy," a man's voice responded, low, familiar, but not my father's. "Keep your voice down. The kids are in the house." "I don't care about the kids. I care about the fact that I just married a man who has his entire estate in an irrevocable trust. Do you understand what that means, Marco? It means I get nothing. Nothing." My blood went cold. Marco, her ex-husband, the one she'd sworn she hadn't spoken to in years. I pressed myself against the wall outside the door, phone already recording. "We can still make this work," Marco said. The prenup is bulletproof. His lawyer made sure of it. I signed away everything like an idiot because you told me the real money was in the accounts, not the company. But there are no accounts, Marco. It's all in the trust for the children. Silence. "So what do we do?" Marco asked. And then Larissa said the words that stopped my heart. "We make sure there aren't any children to inherit." I need to back up. My name is Daniel Reyes. I'm 28 years old, and up until that night I thought I was just being paranoid. My father, Antonio Reyes, built Reyes Construction from nothing. Started with a pickup truck and a toolbox when he was 22. Worked 16-hour days for 4 decades. Missed school plays and soccer games and family dinners because he was pouring foundations and framing houses and slowly, methodically, building an empire. By the time I was born, the company was worth about $2 million. By the time I graduated college, it was worth $12. Now, at 60, my father sat at the helm of a $38 million construction firm with contracts across 3 states. He'd earned every penny of it. My mother never got to enjoy the fruits of that labor. She died of ovarian cancer when I was 22, 6 years ago now. It was fast and brutal. 3 months from diagnosis to funeral. My father held her hand at the end, and I watched something inside him go dark and quiet. He threw himself into work after that. Said he didn't have time for dating. Said he was focused on us, me and my sister Elena. For 4 years, I believed him. Then Larissa appeared. She was 30 years old, with dark hair, green eyes, and a smile that made my father act like a teenager. They met at his gym, the fancy one downtown, where executives and trust fund kids pretended to exercise while networking. She was a wellness consultant, whatever that meant. Within 3 weeks, she was having dinner at our house. Within 2 months, she'd practically moved in. Within 6 months, my father was showing me the ring he'd bought her, a 3-carat princess cut that probably cost more than my first car. Everyone celebrated. My sister Elena was thrilled. "Dad deserves happiness," she said, eyes shining. "He's been alone for so long. Larissa is perfect for him." My uncle Victor clapped my father on the back at the engagement party. "Still got it, old man. She's a knockout." Cousins, friends, business partners, everyone smiled and toasted and told my father how lucky he was. Everyone except me. Something felt wrong from the beginning. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, just a vague sense of unease, a prickling at the back of my neck whenever Larissa was in the room. Then I started noticing things, the way her eyes darted around the house on her first visit, not admiring the architecture or the decor, assessing, calculating, like she was running numbers in her head. The questions she asked, never directly about money, she was too smart for that, but she'd steer conversations toward topics that gave her information. "Antonio, this house is so beautiful. Have you owned it long? Is it hard to maintain a property this size?" And later, "I love that you're so successful. Did you always know construction was your calling? How did you build the company so big?" The way she befriended my father's secretary, Maria, had coffee with her twice a week. Innocent, friendly bonding, except Maria had access to every file in my father's office. The way she somehow ended up at the same restaurant as my father's accountant, Gerald, and struck up a conversation about tax strategies. "You're being paranoid," Elena snapped when I brought up my concerns. "She loves him. Not everyone is after Dad's money." "She's 30 years old, Elena. He's 60. What do they even talk about? Maybe she's just attracted to successful men. Maybe she appreciates his experience and wisdom. Not everything is a conspiracy." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I'd spent 4 years working in commercial real estate. I'd seen what happened to wealthy men who married women half their age without protection. Divorces that gutted family fortunes. Alimony payments that bankrupted businesses. Children cut out of inheritances they'd been promised their whole lives. I started watching more carefully. And the more I watched, the more certain I became. Larissa wasn't in love with my father. She was in love with his money. 3 months before the wedding, I hired a private investigator. His name was Raymond Cortez, former FBI, 22 years of experience in financial crimes and fraud investigation. He was expensive, $400 an hour, but I'd saved enough money to cover a few weeks of work. I need you to look into someone, I told him at our first meeting. My father's fiancée. Her name is Larissa Bennett. Cortez took notes without judgment. What makes you suspicious? I laid it out. The questions, the networking, the gut feeling that something wasn't right. He nodded slowly. Gut feelings are usually based on something real, even if you can't articulate it. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, he called me into his office. Your gut was right, he said, sliding a folder across the desk. Larissa Bennett, born Larissa Vega, has been married twice before, both times to wealthy older men. Both times ended in divorce within 2 years. I opened the folder. Photographs, court documents, financial records. Husband number 1 was Richard Calloway, a retired surgeon in San Diego. Married in 2018, divorced in 2019. She walked away with $1.2 million in the settlement. How? He signed a postnup 3 months into the marriage after she convinced him their original prenup was insulting to their love. Classic manipulation tactic. By the time the divorce was finalized, his lawyer said he was so emotionally broken, he just wanted it over. I turned the page. Husband number 2 was Gregory Marsh, a real estate developer in Scottsdale. Married in 2020, divorced in 2022. She got $800,000 and a condo in Phoenix. Same strategy? Similar. She convinced him to add her to several accounts, then filed for divorce, claiming emotional abuse. There was no evidence of abuse, but the accusation alone was enough to get him to settle quickly to avoid publicity. My hands were shaking. There's more, Cortez said. I ran her phone records through some contacts of mine. She's been in regular communication with a man named Marco Delgado, supposedly her ex-boyfriend from before husband number 1. Supposedly. They were never officially married, but they've maintained contact throughout all her relationships. My guess? He's her partner. They identify targets, she does the marriage work, and they split the proceeds after the divorce. I stared at the folder. This is a professional operation, Cortez continued. She's done this before, and she's good at it. Your father is her biggest target yet. I need to tell him. Cortez shook his head. That's your call. But in my experience, men in love don't listen to evidence, especially not from family members with obvious ulterior motives. So, what do? You make sure your father is protected whether he believes you or not. Talk to his lawyer. Get the prenup ironclad, and document everything, because if this goes to court, you're going to need proof. I tried to talk to my father. It went exactly as badly as Cortez predicted. Daniel, I appreciate your concern, but you're out of line. My father's voice was cold. We were in his study, the same room where he'd told me about my mother's diagnosis 6 years ago. Larissa is the best thing that's happened to me since your mother died. Dad, just look at the file. The private investigator, you hired someone to spy on my fiancé? He stood up. His face was red. How dare you? I was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From being happy? From moving on with my life? He shook his head. Your mother would be ashamed of you. The words hit like a physical blow. I found her other marriages, Dad. She's done this before. Twice. She takes money from wealthy men and— Get out. Dad, please, get out. I left. I didn't speak to my father for 3 weeks. With direct confrontation off the table, I shifted strategies. My father's corporate lawyer was a woman named Patricia Okonkwo, 26 years of experience in business law, estate planning, and prenuptial agreements. She'd been with Reyes Construction for 15 years and had helped my father structure the irrevocable trust that held most of the company's value. I called her office and made an appointment. Daniel, she shook my hand warmly. I was surprised to hear from you. Your father usually handles legal matters himself. This is personal. About Larissa. Her expression shifted, became careful. I'm aware of your father's engagement. He asked me to draft a prenuptial agreement. How strong is it? Patricia studied me for a moment. You're concerned about her intentions. I have evidence that she's done this before. Married wealthy men, manipulated them, walked away with significant assets. I slid Cortez's folder across her desk. She opened it, read for several minutes in silence. When she looked up, her face was grim. This is concerning. Can you protect him? The prenup I drafted is solid, but it's only as good as the enforcement. If she can convince your father to modify it after the marriage, or if she finds other ways to access his assets, she trailed off. What ways? The company itself is safe. It's held in an irrevocable trust for you and your sister. But your father still has personal accounts, investment portfolios, real estate in his individual name. If she gets added to those accounts, or if she can establish a claim to marital assets, how do I stop that? Patricia leaned back. The honest answer? You might not be able to. Your father is a competent adult. If he chooses to add his wife to his accounts, that's his legal right. Even if she's defrauding him, fraud is hard to prove. And by the time you prove it, the damage is usually done. I felt sick. There is one thing, Patricia said carefully. The trust, the irrevocable trust that holds the company and most of his significant assets, is untouchable. Larissa can't access it, can't modify it, can't claim any portion of it in a divorce. The trust is structured to pass directly to you and Elena upon your father's death. So the company is safe. The company is safe, but that only matters if your father is alive to manage it. She paused. I'm not suggesting anything, but if Larissa's goal is the full estate and the trust blocks her access, she might start thinking about other approaches. The implication hung in the air. You think she might hurt him? I think you should be very careful, and I think you should document everything. The wedding was scheduled for June 14th. As the date approached, I became increasingly desperate. I'd tried talking to my father, tried going through his lawyer, tried explaining my concerns to Elena, who accused me of jealousy and refused to speak to me. I was running out of options. 2 weeks before the wedding, I found one more piece of evidence. It happened by accident. Larissa had left her laptop open in the living room while she showered. Careless, but she'd grown comfortable, confident. She thought she'd won. I walked past it on my way to the kitchen, glanced at the screen, saw my father's name. I stopped. The email was open, from someone named Marco. Almost there, baby. 2 more weeks and we're in. How's the old man doing? Her reply, sent that morning. Totally in love. He'd do anything I asked. I'll be on the personal accounts by the end of the month. The company's locked up in some trust, but the liquid assets are worth at least $8 million. That's 4 each after the divorce. Another email, from a week earlier. He has no idea. His kids are clueless. The daughter's basically my best friend now. The son suspects something, but the old man won't listen to him. This is too easy. My hands shook as I screenshotted everything. I photographed the email chain, forwarded the screenshots to myself, put the laptop back exactly as I'd found it. Then I went to my car and sat in the driveway for 20 minutes, trying to breathe. I had proof now. Real, undeniable proof. But I knew my father wouldn't believe it. He'd say I faked it, say I hacked her email, say I was willing to do anything to sabotage his happiness. I needed a different plan. I needed to expose her in a way that left no room for denial. The wedding was beautiful. Backyard ceremony at my father's estate, fairy lights strung through the old oak trees, white chairs arranged in neat rows, a string quartet playing Pachelbel as the guests took their seats. Larissa walked down the aisle in a designer gown that probably cost more than my first year's salary. She looked like an angel, radiant, innocent, the perfect bride. My father cried during his vows. 60 years old, built like a linebacker, and he cried like a child as he promised to love and cherish her forever. I stood in the front row, watching, waiting. The screenshots were on my phone. The recordings I'd made were backed up to 3 different cloud services. I'd planned to expose her at the reception, make a toast, play the recordings for everyone. But as I watched my father's face, so happy, so vulnerable, so desperate to believe that love had found him again, I hesitated. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe Larissa really did love him, and the emails were just, I don't know, some kind of misunderstanding. I didn't make the toast. The reception ended. Guests went home. My father carried his new bride over the threshold of the master bedroom. I went to bed telling myself I'd figure it out tomorrow. And then, at 2:47 a.m., the scream tore through the house. I was still standing in the hallway, phone recording, when Larissa said the words that changed everything. "We make sure there aren't any children to inherit." Marco's voice. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the trust passes to them when he dies, but if they're not around to receive it." Larissa. "That's insane. I'm talking about $8 million that's slipping through our fingers because you didn't do your research properly." "I did the research. The company was supposed to be in his personal name." "Well, it's not. It's in a trust. And now I'm married to a 60-year-old man with nothing to show for it except a prenup that gives me nothing." Silence. "We need to think about this," Marco said. "There might be another way." "There's no other way. The prenup is airtight. The trust is untouchable. The only assets I can get are the ones he dies with, and the children are the backup beneficiaries on everything. So you want to?" "I want what I was promised. $8 million. And if his children are standing in the way of that," I stopped breathing. This wasn't just fraud. This was conspiracy to commit murder. I backed away from the door slowly, silently, made it to my bedroom, locked the door. Then I called 911. The next 4 hours were chaos. Deputy Sergeant Marcus Webb, 16 years with the County Sheriff's Department, arrived with 2 patrol cars at 3:15 a.m. I met them at the front door and explained what I'd heard, played them the recording. Webb's face went grim. "That's enough for probable cause. We need to secure the house." They found Larissa and Marco in the master bedroom. My father was still in bed, groggy from the wine at the reception, confused by the lights and the uniforms. "What's going on? Daniel, what's happening?" "Mr. Reyes, I need you to come with me," Deputy Webb said. "We're going to talk in the living room." Larissa tried to run. Made it about 10 feet before a female deputy tackled her in the hallway. Marco surrendered immediately, hands up, face white, already calculating his legal options. "I didn't agree to anything," he said as they cuffed him. "She was talking crazy. I was trying to calm her down." "Save it for your lawyer," Webb said. The investigation took 3 weeks. Detective Sandra Okonkwo, no relation to Patricia, led the case. 18 years with major crimes, specializing in financial fraud and conspiracy. She interviewed everyone. Me, Elena, my father, Larissa, Marco. She pulled phone records, email histories, bank statements. She traced the money from Larissa's previous divorces, connected the dots between her marriages and Marco's bank accounts. What emerged was worse than I'd imagined. Larissa and Marco had been running their scheme for 11 years. They'd targeted at least 5 wealthy men that the detective could confirm. My father's lawyer had been right that the 2 previous husbands were just the ones with public records. The others had settled quietly, too embarrassed to pursue criminal charges. Total estimated take $4.7 million. million. And the conversations about removing the children? Detective Okonkwo found text messages going back 3 months. The kids are the problem. The daughter's easy, but the son keeps watching me. Can we buy him off? He doesn't want money. He wants his daddy all to himself. Pathetic. So what do we do about him? I'm thinking. There are ways to make problems disappear. They hadn't gotten specific yet. Hadn't made concrete plans. But the prosecutor, Assistant DA Michael Torres, 20 years in the office, argued that the wedding night recording, combined with the text history, demonstrated clear intent to conspire. The grand jury agreed. Larissa and Marco were both indicted on charges of conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and racketeering. Bail was set at $2 million each. Neither of them could pay it. My father aged 10 years in those 3 weeks. He didn't speak to anyone for the first few days, just sat in his study, staring at the wall, trying to process the fact that the woman he'd loved, the woman he'd married, had been planning to kill his children. When he finally emerged, he came to find me. Daniel. I was in the kitchen, making coffee. I turned around. My father looked broken, shoulders slumped, eyes red-rimmed. The confident, powerful man who'd built an empire from nothing looked like a ghost. I should have listened to you, he said. His voice cracked. You tried to warn me. You hired an investigator. You found evidence. And I called you. I said your mother would be ashamed. Dad, I was so desperate to feel something again. After your mother died, I thought I wanted to believe someone could love me. I wanted it so badly that I ignored everything else. He was crying now. My 60-year-old father, standing in his kitchen, crying like a child. I crossed the room and hugged him. It's okay, Dad. You're okay. We're all okay. She was going to kill you, both of you, my children. She didn't get the chance. We stopped her because you were paying attention, because you didn't give up even when I pushed you away. He pulled back, looked me in the eye. I'm so sorry, Daniel, for everything I said, for not believing you, for choosing her over my own son. You didn't choose her. You were manipulated by a professional con artist. That's not your fault. I should have been smarter. You were in love. Love makes everyone stupid. He almost smiled at that. When did you get so wise? I learned from you. The important stuff, anyway. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Larissa's defense attorney tried to argue that the wedding night recording was taken out of context, that she was just venting frustration, not actually planning violence. The prosecutor played the text messages. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Larissa was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Marco got 12. He'd cooperated somewhat with investigators, naming other potential victims. The judge, Honorable Patricia Vasquez, 28 years on the bench, had some words during sentencing. Ms. Bennett, you systematically targeted vulnerable men for financial exploitation. You manipulated their emotions, abused their trust, and ultimately conspired to commit violence against innocent people. Your actions represent a profound betrayal of the most basic human decencies. Larissa didn't respond, just stared straight ahead, mask finally gone, nothing left but cold fury. The court hopes that your time in custody provides opportunity for reflection on the damage you've caused, but frankly, Ms. Bennett, I doubt you're capable of such reflection. She was led away in handcuffs. I watched her go and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no triumph, just a hollow emptiness where the anger used to be. Epilogue. It's been 14 months since the wedding night. My father sold the estate. Too many memories, he said. He bought a smaller place closer to Elena and her family. He's retired from day-to-day management of the company, though he still comes to board meetings and offers advice when asked. The trust held every penny of it. Larissa never got a single dollar of what she'd spent 8 months trying to steal. My father and I are closer now than we've ever been. We have dinner every Sunday, talk about business, about family, about my mother. He started dating again, slowly, carefully, with my full knowledge and approval. She's a retired teacher he met at a grief support group. Her name is Margaret, which he says feels like a sign. Elena apologized for not believing me. We're working on rebuilding our relationship. It's slow, but it's happening. The company is doing well. We landed 3 major contracts last quarter. My father's legacy, 40 years of work, built from nothing, is secure. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that hallway, about pressing myself against the wall, phone recording, heart pounding, listening to a woman plan my death with the same casual tone she'd used to order takeout. I think about what would have happened if I'd gone to bed, if I hadn't heard the scream, if I'd decided to wait until morning to deal with my suspicions. I would have died, my sister would have died, and Larissa would have walked away with everything my father built. She thought she was smarter than everyone, thought she could smile her way into our family, extract what she wanted, and disappear before anyone noticed. She forgot that some people pay attention. She forgot that love doesn't make everyone blind. And she forgot the most important thing about families built on hard work and sacrifice. We protect our own.